continent, a continent of poverty, a continent of conflict, a continent of food security, a continent that has become what they want to see, has become like something that's played on the table by superpowers. And so I try as much as possible to also give the African agency in African history, African media history, and Africa in part and parcel of world history. We cannot deny it. And the mother continent, the continent of where human beings started.
Welcome, everybody. This podcast is all about you.
Why knowledge matters.
Welcome. I'm Yannick, your host, and now joining me, Walter, Nkwi, and George Njumbo Lekelefek. I'm so pleased to join you both on the show to talk about the importance of a teacher and the impact that a teacher can have on a fellow student. Professor Walter Nkwi and George Njumbonga to the show. It's such a honor to have you both here. I hope you both are doing beautifully.
Yes, I'm doing great this morning.
I'm enjoying the weather in Indiana.
Fantastic. So before we start, Professor Walter Nkwi, tell us in one sentence who you are.
I am Walter Nkwi, Professor of African History, University of Leiden, the Netherlands.
And you are
originally from Cameroon.
Beautiful. And you are also a proud dad of 4 children and of a wonderful wife, as far as I can tell. So,
Fantastic.
George, now it's up to you. Please, in one sentence, who is George Njumbonga Lekelefek?
George is simply a researcher who loves to document events, especially the lives of people who have left a lasting impact in society.
So now really we come precisely to change makers, as you both really are. And now I really want to first a little bit explore who Professor Walter Nkwi is and the impact he has had on George. So, but to give us a little bit context, tell us a little bit, how did your early life experiences shape your aspiration and career choices? Now you're a brilliant professor of African studies at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. So walk us through what made you become a researcher, ultimately a husband, and last but not least, a dad of 4 children, which is quite an accomplishment.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, it's very interesting to ask somebody on my age. His aspirations and events that shaped his aspirations. I was born in Ginicom, found in northwest Cameroon, to very rural parents. You can call them in another parlance as peasant parents. My father was called a young man, a florist in a monastery, and my mother, as you can imagine, in African setting, was more of doing rural farming. I went to primary school in Ginicom, St. Anthony Primary School, which was opened in 1927 by the Mayhill missionaries. And in class 7, I think a class 7 teacher already saw the talent in me that I could teach. There was this subject known as general knowledge. General knowledge was in 3 parts. history, geography, and rural science. My class 7 teacher was Mr. Italie. Unfortunately, he passed on a few months ago. He immediately identified me and then gave me 7 of my classmates to be teaching them history. They were slow learners. So I thought I gave assignments and they also submitted assignments to me, which I took them up to my teacher. And I started developing the interest of this through that. And then I went to secondary school, also back in my village. And I was so not taking my case. I think I was a brilliant chap when it came to history. And all of a sudden, I started teaching my classmates. And they sat down and they were taking down notes. And that notwithstanding, there was also another teacher there. The teacher in Form 3 was Mr. Chia Afonso, who had really identified me as well. And I think he really made a lasting impact on me as far as history was concerned.
How did you react when your teacher assigned you basically a teaching role to teach your fellow, your colleagues,
In fact,
your
there
friends?
was that really satisfaction, in all humility, not pride, but that I could be talking to my classmates and that they were taking their notes. It was not as if I was all-knowing, but that I could transmit what I know and people could understand. And now I went into the A-levels. I passed A-level history, A-level literature, A-level economics. And to the university I went. The university was quite the most that I think shaped my aspirations. Because at the university, I started at the university with literature. But interestingly, 1 month, 2 weeks, the literature was not really appealing to me because it was more of European and American literature. And I thought that I would be miseducated if I don't read African literature. And there was no real African literature at the time. So I applied to change the department from literature to history. And I wrote directly to the dean. The dean of the Faculty of Arts was Professor Martin Joma, a graduate from School of Oriental and African Studies. I think he immediately saw that I had a point because one of the issues that I hammered home in the petition was that my future was more with history than literature. And then I was really called up to the office for interview. He called me for an interview. And then asked me, school classes have been going on for 1 month, 2 weeks. So how do you think you will go with history? I answered him in one sentence. Where there's a will, there's a way. There, he just wrote a small note to the vice dean, who was his subordinate, that I had a very strong, convincing case, and then I should be exceptionally allowed to change the department. Then, he was teaching a very interesting course, and more, a very difficult one for that matter, historiography. Historiography is like, call it mechanics in physics. If you know about physics, mechanics is really abstract. So It's like a ritual course. You really need to break through it. You really need to break through it. The first term paper I wrote was actually taught by this professor. And I came out very tall in the paper, had 98%. That was not normal. And then he called me again to his office. I asked a lot of questions. First, whether I went to this elitist Catholic school, whether I went to Sase, St. Joseph's College, Sase. I said no. The next question was whether I went to Sacred Heart College. I said no. He asked a few number of schools. I said I went to the rural school. I went to the school in my village. The conclusion was that I was going to make a good historian. That was all. When we came back from the first semester, he came looking for me to bring my results. And I brought my results. Interestingly, I had a grade point average of 3.2 on 4. And he told me, in a course semester system, if I remain at this level, I will graduate with a second class upper admission. And that is how I think he actually shaped my worldview to take up history and take it up more seriously. Of course, there are many teachers, but I think because if he had refused me from reading history or from changing from literature to history, I doubt where I would have been today. But then, to cut a long story short, that is how I entered into this mainstream history. And today, becoming a professor is just another story again, which we can continue in our discussions.
What's the single most important quality, just single most important quality of an impact teacher such as you? And then I will go to George, and he can actually tell us the impact you had on him. So tell us, what's the single most important quality of an impact teacher, of a change maker as you are?
I can answer you from off the sleeves. An impact teacher feels the impact when he makes his products. 27 years after I met George, after I taught in Bishop Rogan, I think the whole school is all around me. 27 years. So if you teach students and you cannot follow them up, you cannot say, put your finger, this one is here, this one is here, this one is here, and you people say communicate, then you must have failed in what you are doing. And I will take you to Israeli first female Prime Minister Golda Meir. Golda Meir talks about a teacher who forms the mind of the young. You must be very conscientious. You must be very conscious and committed. I think I have that. I have that need. Of course, secondly, you must have your content in your hand and ready to pull along with the students. Pull along with those who are teaching. Go down from your ivory tower to where they are. Because if you stand right up there, they will look at you. But if you go down to their level, you cannot bring them up. So you will come out together.
So, George, now tell us the impact that Walter Nkwi had on you as a student, but also now as a successful academic and researcher.
So as I got reading a detailed article which I published last week, I left St. Joseph's College, which was the first English-speaking secondary school in the English part of Cameroon. I transferred there, but I was the principal there, Monsieur James Toba, facilitated my transfer to Bishop Rogan. So when I went to Bishop Rogan, I went to Bishop Rogan Form 3. In Cameroon, we have a 7-year, we have secondary school for 7 years, which includes its high school. So I went to Bishop Rogan College in Form 3. And when I got there, Professor Walter Nkwi was my history teacher in Form 3. So I still vividly remember that we nicknamed him Perus. So why did we do that? He was also the librarian. And as a student in Bishop One College, I just admired seeing teachers in the library. We were so young, we were 12 years old, and seeing a teacher in the library studying impacted us. In fact, it impacted us. He was a master of the library. So whenever you wanted to borrow a book, you go to meet to Dr. Nkwi. So we really admired his love for books. So in one of those assemblies on Fridays, he came and said that he was perusing the shelves and noticed that some people have not brought back their books. So we're just so touched by this word peruse. You know, it's a high level English peruse. So we had to go to a dictionary to take what it meant. You know, so it really impacted on us. His level was so high, was higher than ours, which impacted on us to search for knowledge. You know, he inspired us to search for knowledge. So that's the first thing I remember of him. He was a man who used very high. His English grammar was extremely high. Secondly, his dressing. He was very professional. In fact, when we were in class, we knew he was coming. His shoes, you know, back in Africa, we have this, we call it knocks. We put it under the shoes so that the shoes do not get worn out. He had it in all his shoes. So whenever he was walking to the class, we knew he was coming. You get the sound, cocks, 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 cocks. So we adjusted. And he was professional. He thought without reading from any textbook. In fact, he knew all the dates of history. He taught us history to his fingertips. So we were so admired by his capacity, by his ability to know his material in total. He knew it all and all. And so that's the second. The third has to do with his simplicity. He was so simple. You could see him in the dormitories. You could see him playing with us football. You know, he was so simple. That's why we really loved him, because he was like a student, but at the same time, he was a teacher. So those things really impacted us, especially me. And I fell in love with research, with books. I just can't imagine my life without books. Yes.
That is beautiful. And just elaborate a little bit more on why tire is so important. Professor Nkwi, tell us why you always dress so nicely, polished shoes, you make sure that you had a very nice and good appearance, because it's not, especially nowadays, it's not necessarily obvious anymore, that you should actually dress properly. So walk us through your reasoning behind that as a teacher.
Yeah, just a minute. Just a minute.
Well,
Before you answer that question, Yannick, I will also want to say I really admire your professionalism in the way you dressed it.
Yeah, sorry.
You do.
Yeah,
Man,
that was a very good one,
merci.
Yannick. I think that we are born into a context, and everybody's upbringing reflects more or less what he is when he becomes an adult. In this case, I will start with one parent in Bishorogan who even questioned me whether I was a student or a teacher. Because they say who always crowd around me. They will always crowd around me. And then I was as small as them. I was not, I was not like body build is not there. Unfortunately. Let's take to your question. I think that my simplicity was built over the years. It was really built over the years. It was not something which I got it in the middle of life. No. I grew growing up from the rural Cameroons. I usually follow my uncles to hunting, to fishing. And we had these missionary norms from Tyrol. And they will always bring some very good dresses. You don't buy the dresses, but you go and pick the dresses. And then they give you a particular assignment to do. because they rear cows, they rear pigs, so they could give you a whole plot to either clear or to keep them clean for their cows to graze. Okay, I was really building myself. That was quite simplest. When I got my A levels, my parents did not really have money to send me to university. That's what Joy has never known. And I have now to put the 3 A levels in my pocket and zip it and do whatever I can do to get money. I worked in the plantations as a laborer, broadcasting for the Lysel, as an office attendant. I worked in Shison General Hospital as a gate man, as a florist, and then as a mortuary attendant. That was interesting one. And then from there, I moved on to one school in Cameroon, St. Rita's Technical College. St. Rita's Technical College, the Bishop of Kumbu at the time had gotten funding from the Palestine fathers in Germany. And so they were building really a mega secondary school. And I worked there as a laborer. That is where I got money to go now to university. Tell me the type of life I should live. Should I be putting on a 3-piece suit at the university? No. Even at the university, I never went to school by taxi. I trekked at least 3 kilometers every day to go to university and trek back home. So my life was built in a way that I was just simply supposed to be simplistic. And Bishop Rogan is a very, one, it's an elite school. 2, it's a minor seminary. If you want to train priests, if you want children to get vocation, you must be exemplary. You must be a role model which they can actually admire. What do they see? Principles is a life duty. If you are in school and you are putting on all the ties on earth, and then you place yourself that black up there, and the students are down, you miss the point. I ate with them in the lavatory. I was with them in the dormitories. I was with them in the chapel. So I go around with them. I went to the mountains. Went hiking in the mountains. You there? Was yet in the mountains. And I can see today that the simplicity paid off, because after 27 years, George is driving 12 hours to come down here. And another of his classmates, Emil, also drove in, I think, 3 or 4 hours. That gives a bit really satisfaction. But I taught in a university in Cameroon for close to 21 years. This job satisfaction that I had in Michigan, it never came my way until I started teaching in Europe, Leiden. The students in Leiden exactly have the same way in which my students in Michigan used to behave. And I see this more because I have my evaluations, and in Europe, in North America, Canada, student evaluation is actually a true reflection of you. It's not the way, it's a true reflection of you. And I see that to be a very big tick on me. I think when I see it, I feel very satisfied.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. What made you change the continent in terms of teaching? What made you move to the Netherlands?
That is a good one. That is a good one. Many people would think that I worked or I got the job in the Netherlands. In fact, I did my PhD in the Netherlands. But then I went back to Cameroon. From Cameroon, I went to Oxford. And this job in which I was successful to be shortlisted 45 applicants ran for this job. 45. You know, the visa issue to travel into Netherlands for the interview was difficult. But then Oxford gave me their audiovisual room for the interview. So they interviewed me. That was April. Then after 2 weeks, they said they were to interview me again. I said, I'm available. The last interview was really something I could share a bit with you, because the concluding remarks of the interview, I told the panelists that I think I'm fit for the job. And that if you don't employ me, it means that you don't have confidence in the people that I train, because I'm from Leiden. By the time I reached my hostel, I got a phone call that I've been given the job. So but then I went back to Cameroon. And September 2019, I had to resume the teaching job in Leiden. When I came into Leiden, African section had 42 students. The next take in moved from 42 to 85. Moved from 85 to 150. Because the issue was really that they wanted an African to teach African history. Most of the students are really young, 18, 19, 21 and all. And they grew up with these stereotypes about and misrepresentations about Africa. So in any of my classes, I try to give an African-centered perspective about African history. And this is how I dress. This is how I dress all through my classes. And the evaluations, the increase in the numbers factually gives me really job satisfaction that I'm doing it. I hit my chest and say I'm doing it. It is really well there. So that is how I came in. So I came in there because this job was advertised and I got the job. And I had to also teach African history to non-Africans. That is really my job. Not only selling myself, but selling a continent and selling the civilization and the pride of Africa, which for a very long time has been misrepresented. It has been looked at upon as a negative continent, static continent, a continent of poverty, a continent of conflict, a continent of food security, a continent that has become what they want to say, has become like something that's played on the table by superpowers. And so I try as much as possible to also give the African agency in African history, African media history, and Africa in part and parcel of world history. We cannot deny it. And the mother continent, the continent of where human beings started. The human beings are original and indigenous to Africa.
When you look at and that's really important to address actually these stereotypes, right, that exist, right? So when you look back, when you started and where we are now, how do you see like the progress that we have made so far when it comes to the African continent and to our understanding, especially through a wide lens of the African continent?
Yeah, I think I've made a very serious impact. Even yesterday, I was talking to my students. Some are in Tanzania, some are in Kenya. We talk on a daily basis, and the most students have go down to Africa. They really, because I brought in this program, which is the Bachelor of African Studies. You spend one semester in Africa. Spend one semester in Africa. You go to an African university. You take at least 2 courses and one indigenous language. So students can go to Senegal, students can go to Kenya, students can go to Tanzania, students can go to South Africa. And not calling myself a star, but I think that there is something like a star there because I find even primary school students, people coming to my class because these students are teach go on weekends and in their dining tables you talk about free waters. And then you find a child in class coming up to you during break, a class 6 or class 7 C, and then I pick up. I say, all right, come follow me to the office. I give you one of the African story writers novels, Chinua Achebe, Gugi Watungo. And then so you find that, and my dream is actually that if I'm disappearing from the stage, later the people to pick that up. Later the people to pick that up. A lot of I supervise a lot of master's theses. I supervise undergraduate students. I supervise PhD students. And when you look in from their topics, you know that these students, in the next 10 years, African studies will be something very different. In mainland Europe, because in North America has a very old tradition for African studies.
So that's interesting. Explain this. What's the difference between North America in terms of African studies and Europe? How does it differ and why?
If you look at if you look at Wisconsin, medicine, these are the oldest African studies center. Boston, these are these don't really have an African studies tradition, hundreds of years. But in Europe, when you find Europe, you find the African Studies Center in Leiden, which was opened in 1947. But I think before the 1947, it was already Wisconsin. Because Alex Haley, who was a descendant of slaves, if you have watched the film of Kunta Kinte, because he wrote The Roots. Alex Haley, Alex Haley was the author of The Roots, and he was a descendant of the slaves. And then he started the African American studies in Wisconsin back in the years. Indiana, in which I am, are one of the best publishing houses that publishes books from Africa. And you can name the rest. But when you go to mainland Europe, you have very few of them. Britain has a School of Oriental and African Studies, which was opened sometime in late 50s. By those who also wanted African history to be taught out of Africa. Yeah, that's the difference. And then you see African Studies Association, you see African Journal of African History, Africa Today, then the Canadian Association of African Studies, which will be taking place in McGill University in June. So there's a lot that is going on.
Yeah, that's critical. George, let's comment you a little bit on this and how you as a younger generation, feel like the changes that are happening when it comes to African studies.
Well, the professor is talking from his experience as a professor, but as a student who has lived in different countries and different continents, one of the first countries I visited out of Africa was Mexico, 2009, where I studied Spanish for 2 years. And when I went to Mexico, I was shocked by the gross ignorance of some Mexicans about Africa. In fact, one of them asked me whether the sun shines in Africa. It- whether the sun shines in Africa. For them, Africa is totally dark, and we are still suffering from the dark ages. You know, so uh, the African studies is really important. It's important that not only Africans learn it, but also different nationalities. Africa is a continent. And in fact, one of them was asking me uh, whether my, he asked me about Africa. The question he asked was, "Is Africa a country?" I said, "No, it's a very big continent with 54 countries." So I'm just giving you this example so to elucidate the importance of studying. Studying. People are lacking knowledge about what Africa is.
Yeah, that's so important. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing. So let's move on a little bit more in terms of habits. I really want to know, Professor, your habits, your daily habits. So walk us a little bit through what's your daily routine that you believe contribute to your productivity and well-being. What do you do first thing in the morning?
That is what they used to call in Bishogogan in Latin the daily horarium. I have a very interesting daily life, which I might share a bit for you. In the morning, I walk about 3 kilometers. Then I drink water. I take breakfast around 10 o'clock. And then around 1 o'clock, I take my lunch. And then in the evening, I take my dinner. But then, if this is intercepted by appointments with my students, because my students are always like my priority, I give them a lot of priority. But all this is not as if it is fixed. It is more flexible. It is really flexible. I see I'm still drinking my water now. I would have drank this water when I did my walk in the morning. Yeah. Simply
So
that
why
is,
do you
yeah.
eat only at 10 a.m. in the morning? What's the reason behind
At
it?
that time, I feel that my stomach is telling me to eat. And the breakfast I usually take is just a bit of tea, snacks. I don't take heavy food. Because if you eat a lot, too much food in your stomach, you don't think well. You don't think well. And you become so tired when you eat a lot. Take just enough. Just enough.
And
It,
that's
it,
why you look so healthy, right? That's why you look so healthy and so energetic,
yes, and
despite having 4 children and a wife, right? It's pretty
oh,
amazing.
yeah, I have 4 kids, and they too are really my pride. My first daughter just got master's in microbiology and lab technology. Meanwhile, the follower is doing computer engineering in sixth semester now. And then my third son is preparing to write his advanced levels. And the last one is getting to Form 5. My wife herself is doing her PhD now in sociology in Cameroon. So, being very far away from the family can impact on you. But what did I do? There is a whole platform. There's a WhatsApp group where we come in there every morning. We have videos, we play, we chat. So I'm very pleased with me. So we talk a lot on the platform. So with that, I am psychologically very balanced. There is no pressure.
But it also means that Cameroon is very important for your family, that you actually do this sacrifice, that you leave your wife and children behind in Cameroon. So the connection and the family must be very, very sound. So
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
that's important. That's important. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So tell us the most important thing that you do in the morning that really keeps you sane and in a beautiful state in order to deliver the outstanding work that you do throughout the year.
No, in the morning, I have two things in the morning. I pray in the morning. I do my walk. 3.5 kilometers. I do that. Those
Beautiful.
are two major things that I do in the morning.
How about you, George? What's your morning routine and what do you think makes you feel feel good and healthy and keep doing what you're doing right now?
So generally, I get up at 3 a.m. I always get up at
Mm.
3 a.m. It's just automatic.
Mm.
Why do I get
Mm.
up at 3 a.m. to do? The first thing I do when I get up at 3 a.m. is I go to the fridge and take a bottle of mineral water.
Mm.
The gas,
Mm.
the gas. I drink a glass of it. Then I say, I make my meditation. I have a 30 minutes meditation, reflection. What am I going to write? What is
Mm.
happening? I always reflect on a topic to write about. What
Mm.
is, you know,
Mm.
how am I going to develop this article? You know, so that's a meditation, which ends up with a prayer, very short prayer, and then I get up normally at 6 a.m. And same with the professor. I instead of walking, I take a ride. I have a bicycle.
Okay.
So that's a German.
Okay.
I learned that from the Germans. So I in the morning
Uh-huh.
I have make sure I ride for about 30 minutes instead of
Mhm.
walking, riding. It's very good for to begin the day. So prayers,
Very good.
bicycle ride, and reflection.
Is there a particular life lesson you learned that you would like to pass on to others? What's the single most important life lesson that you have learned, Professor Kui?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things which I think I could share here for anybody to take home. One thing is humility. One thing is humility. Don't write it on your forehead. Don't underlook anybody. Give everybody his own seat. And secondly, reading is like fertilizer. It nourishes the brain. If you fail to read, you rust. You rust. You need to keep abreast with the happenings around you. What is happening around you is very important. Very important. And then always be focused. Always be focused, because when you stay focused and it becomes so difficult for you to be distracted. So focus, you stay focused because you know what you want to have. And above all, you must have a dream. If you don't have a dream and you think that your life will depend on providence, things that happen at the spur of the moment, you will never get it. You will never get it. So if you carry this in your pocket and move with it, I think that you can go a very long way in life.
I love that. Focus, dream, humility, and reading. What an advice. I really love that and really makes sense. I think, without a vision, without a dream, people perish, as it says in a very beautiful book. And I think
Yeah.
it's so, so true. How about you, George? Tell us, what is one of the most critical life lessons that you should conduct your life in order to make a difference and truly be a gift to the world?
Well, the first thing is believe. And I always tell people, if you don't believe in God, then believe that there's somebody almighty, powerful somewhere who created you. So if you have that connection with the creator, he is going to speak to your heart by putting the right people on your way to accomplish your your dreams, because our your mission, each and every human being has a mission. We are made in his image and likeness. So if we believe in God first, the creator, we are, it's just like a tree and the branches. We can separate, you can separate yourself. We are the branches and the tree. If you separate, what happens? The branches will wither and fade. But if the branch is always connected with the tree, you're going to be able to realize your dreams. So the first thing for me is believe in, the philosophers call it the on course cause. That's what the philosophers call it. The unmoved mover. This mover who moves everything but is unmoved. So instead of saying God, we can also say is the unmoved mover, is the uncaused cause. So the first thing is having a personal relationship with that person. It's called spirituality, which is different from religion. Spirituality is a personal relationship with God. I myself getting up every morning, having a personal relationship with the creator, the person who created. So if I have that personal relationship, then I'll be able to discover my talents and gifts. Because if I don't discover those two, I can contribute in the society. So discovering my talents and gifts. What am I good at? You see, the professor from his school days, from still in primary, no, secondary school, as he mentioned, he was already, the teacher had discovered his talents of teaching, and he was teaching his classmates already. It happened to me too when I was in Nigeria. I was teaching my classmates French language, because the professor was sick. He said, George can teach French. So I started teaching at the age of 20 in Nigeria. So at times, once you are in the right place with the right people, then you can discover your talents. At times, there are people who are even going to tell you, going back to humility, never you underestimate anybody. Never you ever. I find myself studying in Rome thanks to a priest who recommended me to study in Italy. A priest who was not even a Cameroonian, he was a Mexican. So you can see how God places you in a place for a reason and just changes your life. So I believe it's important to be open to divine providence. Divine providence. And to respect each and every one, do unto others what you would like done to you. And finally, once you've discovered your gifts and talents, put it into practice in the community, wherever you find yourself. Yes.
Beautiful. Last but not least, Professor Walter Nkwi, what makes you feel alive?
I can take from George. I can just pick up from George and fill the glass space. God gives me the life. God gives me the life. And I can tell you how God has played it to me. In 2016, I had a mild stroke. If you see me today, you will never believe that I had a stroke. I walked on a wheelchair. And God made it to happen in so interesting way that only a miracle could have happened. Only a miracle. And my recovery, my doctor was really shocked how I recovered from it. And so up till date, since then, I've been taking my medications. I think that's what is keeping me alive. Take care of myself. I drink a bit. I drink water. I eat a bit. Everything, just be careful what you do. Avoiding what you think is not good, useful for your health. You leave it off. Yeah.
Beautiful. How about you, George?
Well, I'm going to continue from where the professor ended. I'm going to say moderation. Moderation is the word. Virtue lies in the middle. Virtus in medio est. Everything with moderation. And going back to what he said about God, to me, as I told you, let me go back to what I said because it's important. If we have a connection with the Creator, then we are going to be productive and fruitful. In fact, I was going through Professor CV. I said, how can this be possible without a supernatural power? He has written more than 100 articles. You went to his CV and saw it yourselves. He has conducted a lot of interviews and given conferences. Can this just be the human power? No, there's something divine. So it's important to connect to the divine. It gives you that possibility to be surprised by by your potentials and what you can do and what you can deliver. So in conclusion, I would say that what keeps me alive are the projects and the dreams that I have. As Professor was saying, it's not living a life without dreams. Totally boring. I see people getting up. Some people call me and tell me, "Oh, I'm so bored today. I don't know what to do." It's because you don't have dreams. If you have dreams, then you are alive. And you're always thinking of doing something tomorrow, thinking of writing this article, thinking of writing this book or reading this book. So it's important to have a dream. Without a dream, we are just worthless. We can't be fruitful. So what keeps me alive are my dreams, and I believe that God works through my dreams to inspire me. Because at times I write some articles and I say, but where did this topic come from? It's an inspiration. They're all inspirations through dreams. Yes.
It's beautiful. And it's also what Carl Jung said, right? I mean, dreams is just a different reality. It's basically our unconscious, right? And it's up to us to really to decipher it and to dissect it and put it into words or into action, right? So thank you so much, Professor Dr. Walter Nkwi and Dr. George and Chumbunga Lekelefek for being on the show. It's such a blessing, and I can't wait to have you soon back on the show.
Thank you, Yannick.
Yannick,
Thank you.
I want to thank Yannick especially for always being available to transmit knowledge. Because you, Yannick, you have a talent to and a gift of, you always are ready to, this platform you have created is extremely important. Extremely, because you are enlightening the world and so many people just by watching your interview. So please keep doing this wonderful work you're doing. I can see how passionate you are. Always, I sent you an email on Monday, and here we are today, connecting from different angles. And I thank the professor. He is visiting from the Netherlands, as you know, but he was available to transmit his knowledge to enlighten us, his former students, on what he has gone through. So thank you, Prof, for your availability.
Thank you, George, for making it happen. Thank you.
We thank God he made it happen.
Thank you.
Walter Nkwi and George Chumbunga Lekelefek. That's why knowledge matters. Make your life a masterpiece. Visit now programs.d-ykm.com. Meant to make you grow.